The void between the stars is a silence too vast for human imagination. Yet tonight, something moves in that silence, an object from another star, gliding through the black like a thought crossing eternity. Astronomers first called it 3I/ATLAS, the third interstellar visitor ever detected. They thought it was a rock, a comet, a wanderer. But as the telescopes watched, something impossible began to happen. The object slowed down. Not from gravity, not from solar wind, an intentional deceleration, as if someone or something had tapped the brakes. At first, the data was dismissed as a software error, but when observatories across the world confirmed the readings, the mood shifted from curiosity to shock. Inside NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, Dr. Sienna Moore stood in front of the holographic model of the solar system, watching 3I/ATLAS's path bend in a way that no natural object ever had. "It's not falling," she whispered. "It's aiming." No one in the control room responded. The silence said everything. Within hours, confirmation came from the European Space Agency's Deep Space Network in Spain and the Atacama Array in Chile. The object's braking pattern was precise, mathematically perfect. Natural forces could not explain it. The announcement rippled across agencies and headlines. NASA confirms artificial maneuver in interstellar object. The White House went into lockdown meetings. Military satellites recalibrated to watch the intruder. News anchors trembled through sentences that made no sense a week earlier. "If this isn't natural," one of them said on air, "then someone built it." Humanity, for the first time in history, faced proof that something intelligent beyond Earth was real and moving closer. Dr. Moore was summoned to a secure session of the International Space Council. Around the table sat generals, presidents, and scientists, their faces gray with disbelief. On the central screen, the trajectory blinked in soft blue. "It's slowing near Jupiter," she said, as though preparing for orbit insertion. "It's choosing where to stop." No one interrupted her. The stillness in the room was the weight of history. The debate erupted immediately after. Some wanted to consider it a threat. Others insisted on communication. The United Nations convened an emergency session calling for global coordination. The words "non-human technology" entered official transcripts for the first time. Outside, millions took to the streets, praying, chanting, panicking. Social media burned with conspiracy and prophecy. Some said it was the return of the gods. Others believed it was a probe from the future. A few whispered about the old legends of the Anunnaki, the star being said to have created humankind in the first cities of Sumer. And somewhere deep in Iraq, a team of archaeologists remembered what they had already found, the tomb that should not have existed. Sienna Moore had read every page of that discovery report. The tomb beneath the Iraqi sands contained inscriptions that matched none known languages, yet their patterns mirrored the genetic code. When DNA was extracted from a preserved bone fragment, the sequence was impossible, human, yet not entirely. The same anomaly had appeared now in the radio pulse coming from 3I/ATLAS. When the object transmitted again, its signal carried mathematical harmonics, prime sequences repeating, then shifting into modulated frequencies that mapped to double helix pairs. Carlos Gomez, the team's linguist, said quietly, "It's sending DNA, or it's reminding us of ours." That was the moment Dr. Moore realized the connection. She proposed what no one else dared. 3I/ATLAS is not arriving randomly. It's responding to something we've already uncovered. Her words drew silence, then disbelief, then reluctant awe. The Council authorized the creation of a joint global mission, an intercept probe to rendezvous with the object and discover its intent. Months of feverish work followed. Engineers in Houston, Berlin, and Tokyo worked around the clock, building a hybrid craft capable of traveling faster than anything before it. They called it Prometheus, designed to reach 3I/ATLAS before it entered the inner solar system. The mission would be unmanned but piloted remotely, carrying the hopes of 8 billion minds. During the final test runs, Raj Patel, the lead propulsion engineer, turned to Sienna and said, "If that thing was sent by someone, we might be their children looking up at our creators," she answered softly, "or their mistakes coming home." The launch date was set for December 4th. At dawn, engines ignited beneath a desert sky. The rocket lifted through the orange haze, carrying Prometheus toward destiny. Around the world, humanity watched as the countdown reached zero and the trail of light pierced the heavens. For once, every language, every religion, every nation focused on the same single point of sky. The journey took weeks. Each day, 3I/ATLAS grew closer and the data stranger. It rotated not like a tumbling rock, but with gyroscopic balance, deliberate and stable. Its temperature shifted as if regulating heat. It was not a comet, it was a machine. When Prometheus neared it, sensors detected bursts of energy similar to plasma thrusters, faint, pulsed, intentional. The craft had slowed to a near standstill between Jupiter and Mars, hovering like a patient watcher. Then came the signal, stronger this time, structured into cascading tones. It was a language, but not spoken. The probe matched orbits. Its cameras revealed the object at last, a metallic body nearly half a kilometer long, obsidian black, marked with patterns that reflected faintly in sunlight. Along one side was a ridge resembling a scar or perhaps a door. The robotic arm extended, carrying a sensor pod toward the surface. At contact, the hull shimmered as if made of liquid crystal. It accepted the probe's presence, absorbing data, exchanging signals. "It's alive," Raj said. The transmission confirmed it. Inside the hollow of the object, sensors mapped chambers and corridors, massive spaces filled with crystalline cylinders, each emitting low-frequency vibration. The cylinders contained organic molecules, RNA chains, fragments of life. Prometheus transmitted everything to Earth. When Dr. Moore saw the analysis, her hands trembled. The DNA structures were a perfect match to the anomaly found in the Iraqi tomb. She stared at the overlapping sequences on her screen, ancient and alien, yet undeniably human. The connection between heaven and earth was written in biology itself. The next transmission changed everything. The object projected a holographic lattice of light within its interior, forming symbols resembling Sumerian cuneiform. Layla Chen cross-referenced them with archived translations. The words formed a sentence: "We return to the seed." Panic and wonder consumed Earth. Governments struggled to keep order. The Vatican convened an emergency council. Temples filled. Online forums became places of prayer. Some feared judgment, others saw salvation. But Dr. Moore saw continuity, a chain across eons. She convinced the council to allow Prometheus deeper entry. The probe passed through the shimmering corridor, descending into a spherical chamber lined with murals depicting humanoid beings with wings. Between them floated holographic projections of galaxies, spirals of light, and strands of DNA connecting stars to human figures. It was the story of life itself, told not in words, but light. Then came the activation. A pulse from Prometheus's communication array triggered resonance across the ship. The walls illuminated. Outside, the object's engines, if that's what they were, flared once more, brighter than the sun's reflection. 3. I/ATLAS began to move again, but slowly, gracefully, braking not to escape, but to stay. On Earth, observatories recorded the burst. For 2 minutes, the magnetosphere shimmered in colors unseen before. Auroras appeared over deserts, equators, oceans. It was as if the planet itself was being addressed. And then, the voice came. It was not heard through air, but directly within receivers, translated simultaneously across languages. A voice both male and female, ancient and kind, resonant and soft. "Children of dust and water, you have reached the threshold. The seed has awakened." Dr. Moore froze. "It's speaking to us." The message continued, describing cycles of creation, collapse, and rebirth. It spoke of those who came before, beings who seeded worlds with life, who watched civilizations rise and fall. "You are not our first," it said, "but you are our continuation." Religions trembled, governments wavered, scientists cried. Humanity's place in the universe was rewritten in a single broadcast. For the first time in history, myth, science, and faith converged. The signal ended with coordinates, one pointing to Earth, another to a distant system beyond Orion. The meaning was simple: origin and destination. The journey that began eons ago was meant to continue. The United Nations voted unanimously to form the first joint interstellar program. Nations dissolved their rivalries under a banner called Project Genesis. The archives within 3I/ATLAS were opened remotely, revealing instructions, how to travel between stars without destroying what made humanity human. Months passed. The craft remained silent but alive, orbiting peacefully beyond Mars. Humanity rebuilt itself around this revelation. Wars ceased. Energy research accelerated. Borders faded. Something ancient within human nature, curiosity and wonder, overpowered fear. Dr. Moore visited the Iraqi site once more. The tomb beneath the sand now stood beneath a glass dome, preserved as the birthplace of the new era. She knelt beside the stone sarcophagus and traced the inscription no one had deciphered before. With new understanding, she read it aloud. "We sleep in dust until the stars call us home." She wept, not from fear or confusion, but from clarity. The message was never about gods or dominion. It was about memory. The Anunnaki had not ruled mankind. They had prepared it. Above her, through the transparent dome, she could see 3I/ATLAS passing as a faint star in the sky. For the first time, humanity could point to something and say, "That's where we began." Scientists worked tirelessly decoding the full database from the craft. It contained blueprints for sustainable energy, medical cures, and languages built upon harmony frequencies that could teach empathy neurologically. Humanity's next step was not conquest, it was understanding. In one of the final transmissions before the craft went silent, a pattern repeated, two spirals intertwining, one fading as the other brightened. Dr. Moore understood. It was their goodbye. The world declared a new calendar, the year of first contact. Children learned history differently. The myths of Gilgamesh, of the Anunnaki, of lost civilizations were no longer superstition. They were the first chapters of an unfinished story. As night fell on the anniversary of the breaking maneuver, people across continents turned off their lights and looked upward. In the darkness, 3I/ATLAS glowed faintly, its reflection casting silver lines across the oceans. A beacon, not of fear, but of belonging. Dr. Moore stood on a coastal cliff, the sea wind pulling at her hair. She spoke into the night, knowing the signal would reach them. "We found you, and in finding you, we found ourselves." From orbit, a faint reply shimmered, a pulse of light, slow and deliberate, like the heartbeat of the cosmos itself. The craft began to move once more, accelerating outward this time, leaving behind a smaller object, a crystalline sphere that entered Earth's atmosphere and descended into the Pacific. Inside, satellites captured the reflection of DNA strands rotating in light. Recovery teams found it days later, unbroken, glowing softly. Inside were engraved words in every language of humanity. "You are the keepers now." The world held its breath again, but this time in peace. There was no fear, only understanding. The universe had never been empty. It had only been waiting for us to listen. Years later, when the first joint human spacecraft launched toward Orion, its hull bore a single symbol, two spirals entwined, fading into light. Humanity had finally accepted its cosmic heritage. Dr. Moore, older now, watched from a quiet observatory as the ship left orbit. "We're not exploring anymore," she said. "We're returning." The stars beyond flickered like the reflections of memory. Somewhere out there, 3I/ATLAS continued its voyage, perhaps to another world, another beginning. The story of creation had never ended. It had simply paused until its children were ready. As the horizon glowed with the dawn, Earth was no longer alone. The night sky was no longer silent. It whispered softly in every direction, "Welcome back." And so humanity stepped into its rightful place among the stars, not as conquerors, not as observers, but as heirs. When the final transmission from 3I/ATLAS reached Earth years later, a single image of intertwined galaxies forming a double helix, Sienna Moore smiled. It was the universe's final message. Life is meant to continue. The camera of human history pulled outward, showing Earth as a blue spark against an ocean of black. The voice that had once spoken returned, faint and eternal. The seed endures. In that moment, every telescope, every mind, every soul understood. The story of mankind had just begun. The object faded into the darkness beyond Neptune, breaking one last time before vanishing into the void. Somewhere, perhaps, another world was waiting to awaken. And far above, the stars pulsed like living hearts, remembering. Dr. Sienna Moore's eyes remained fixed on the stars long after the final signal faded. She wasn't watching for movement anymore. She was listening. The silence between transmissions carried a presence, an awareness. It wasn't emptiness, it was expectation. Somewhere out there, beyond the thin reach of light, something was waiting for humanity to take its next step. Weeks after the last message, strange anomalies began to appear across the sky. Auroras in regions that had never seen them, electromagnetic pulses faintly synchronized with the rhythm of human heartbeats. Scientists confirmed that each wave corresponded to the DNA sequence embedded in the 3I/ATLAS signal. It was as though the planet itself had become part of the message. In a conference hall in Geneva, the world's brightest minds gathered under the banner of the Cosmic Heritage Accord. Dr. Moore stood before them, illuminated by the light of a single holographic image, the twin spirals, the symbol left behind. "We were meant to find them," she said, "but the greater truth is that they always expected us to find ourselves." The crowd was silent, unified by awe. On every continent, a transformation took root. Instead of monuments to war, cities began constructing observatories and education sanctuaries. Energy grids shifted to quantum-based systems derived from the alien archive. Poverty, disease, and division began to fade under the shared knowledge that all humanity came from the same seed. But one question still haunted Sienna. Who were the ones who sent 3I/ATLAS, and why had they chosen this moment to return? Late at night, she would review the decrypted files over and over again, searching for clues hidden in the cosmic poetry of its code. Then, one night, she found it, a timestamp, billions of years old, predating even the formation of Earth. It was a directive embedded deep within the genetic language. When the children of the seed awaken, send the memory home. The realization chilled her. The breaking wasn't the beginning. It was a response. 3I/ATLAS had been waiting for Earth to reach a certain level of consciousness, a collective frequency, before returning the call. Humanity had triggered it. Across the solar system, probes now monitored the craft's lingering trail. The vaporized dust it released was found to contain microstructures, tiny lattice formations holding encrypted instructions. When translated, the patterns resembled planetary coordinates scattered across the Milky Way. Each one represented another seed world, another cradle of life. The discovery stunned the scientific community. Humanity was no longer one civilization among billions. It was part of a network of life far older and grander than anything imagined. And somewhere out there, other civilizations might have received their own ATLAS, their own awakening. Dr. Moore returned to the Iraqi sands once more, standing over the exact spot where the tomb had been uncovered. The air was still and warm. She touched the ancient stones, feeling the hum of energy beneath them. "You weren't a tomb," she whispered. "You were a message buried in time." Beneath her feet, the ground vibrated faintly, almost as if answering. That night, she dreamed. In her vision, a vast ocean of stars unfolded before her. From within it, figures of light appeared, humanoid, tall, radiant. They spoke without sound. The seed must travel. You are the gardeners now. When she awoke, tears streamed down her face. She knew what they wanted. The journey had to continue. Plans began for humanity's first interstellar arc. Using the blueprints found within 3I/ATLAS, engineers designed a living vessel, part biological, part mechanical. It would carry humans to the first destination marked in the star map, beyond the Orion Arm. The ship was named Eden's Echo. The launch preparations took decades. Children born after first contact grew up never knowing a divided world. They studied physics and mythology as one subject. Science and spirit finally reunited. They were called the Generation of Return, the first to travel not outward, but homeward. Dr. Moore, now gray-haired but sharp-eyed, watched from the command balcony as Eden's Echo stood poised against the dawn. "We are not the first," she told her team, "but we will not be the last." The engines hummed with a resonance derived from the ancient craft's propulsion, a harmonic that matched the natural frequency of human DNA. When ignition came, it was soundless, graceful, like a heartbeat turning into light. The ship ascended, leaving a spiral of golden plasma in the upper atmosphere. Around the world, people watched with quiet reverence. No one cheered. No one wept. They simply understood that something sacred was happening, the completion of a promise written in the stars. Weeks into the voyage, Eden's Echo transmitted back its first message. "We have entered the corridor. The stars are singing." The data stream contained more than telemetry. It contained harmonics that resonated with the same patterns once emitted by 3I/ATLAS. The craft, even billions of miles away, was guiding them. Back on Earth, observatories detected new movement in the distant void. Another object, faint and slow, mirroring the trajectory of Eden's Echo. The scientists were cautious but hopeful. It was as if 3I/ATLAS had awakened its siblings across the stars. Sienna listened to the new signal one last time before her retirement. It was faint, almost imperceptible, but when amplified, it revealed a message encoded in rhythm. Together again. She smiled. Humanity had finally joined the choir of creation. Years later, on the anniversary of first contact, a monument was erected at Cape Canaveral, a ring of crystal engraved with the words, "The seed endures." Every generation would look upon it and remember that the story of humanity began not in isolation, but in inheritance. At night, the monument glowed faintly, powered by a frequency unknown to conventional energy systems. Pilgrims came from all over the world to stand within the ring, claiming they could hear the faint hum of the stars in their chest. Some said it was imagination, others said it was connection. And high above, the stars pulsed back. The universe was no longer cold or indifferent. It was alive, aware, responsive, a mirror of the consciousness that had finally reached maturity. One evening, Dr. Moore, now in her final years, sat on a cliff overlooking the ocean. She carried an old device once used to monitor 3 I/ATLAS's transmissions. It had been silent for decades. Then, just as the sun dipped below the horizon, it flickered with light. A single pulse, then another, then a pattern. DNA sequence encoded in light. She laughed softly, whispering, "You remembered." The stars above shimmered brighter, as if answering. The signal translated into one final message. "Well done, child of Earth." Tears filled her eyes. She turned her gaze skyward and whispered back, "We'll keep the garden alive." When she passed that night, the device recorded one last pulse, a gentle harmonic that echoed for hours in the upper atmosphere before fading into silence. But radio operators across the globe reported hearing a strange tone in the static, a sound like a heartbeat drifting through the void. Centuries later, when future archaeologists uncovered her observatory, they found a plaque she had left behind. It read, "We are the story that never ends." By then, Eden's echo had already reached its destination, orbiting a pale blue world that mirrored Earth's skies. The descendants of the generation of return walked beneath new constellations, carrying fragments of old myths and the promise of tomorrow. They found ruins there, vast, ancient, built by hands not entirely human, and inscribed on a stone arch at the entrance of a temple were the same words seen on Earth millennia before. "We sleep in dust until the stars call us home." The explorers stood in silence, realizing what Sienna Moore had always known. Humanity was never alone. The universe was a cycle of remembrance, each world a verse in a cosmic poem. 3I/ATLAS had simply been the first stanza. They recorded their findings and sent them back to Earth. The transmission traveled across the gulf of light years, taking decades to arrive. But when it did, the world listened once more. And in that silence after the signal, they heard it again. The faint heartbeat of the cosmos, the same rhythm that had guided their ancestors long before the first city rose from dust. And so it continued, an unbroken chain between creation and discovery. The stars pulsed softly, as if breathing, as if alive. Somewhere beyond, other civilizations were waking to their own messengers, their own ATLAS returning from the dark. The story was no longer about one world, one species, or one beginning. It was the song of life itself, echoing from star to star, from dust to consciousness, from silence to meaning. And as long as there were eyes to look up, ears to listen, and hearts to wonder, the message would never fade. Because the truth, as Dr. Moore had once written, was simple and eternal. We are the seed, and the universe is the garden. And in the infinite dark beyond all suns, something stirred once more. A new light flared briefly, breaking against the current of time, announcing its arrival to the next waiting world. The cosmos listened, smiled, and whispered back the oldest words ever known. Welcome home.